There are 16 mainline Monster Hunter games, and I've played 10 of them. So what we're going to do is put them on a tier list right now, all against each other, to find out what the best Monster Hunter game is. We're going to talk about every mechanic, every plus health hip check, every Kizu moment, every weird mechanic, every good mechanic, whatever. We're going to talk about it right here, and I'm excited to do it. So let's get it. My first Monster Hunter game I ever played was indeed Monster Hunter Freedom, and I'm going to put it in 6. I'm gonna give it a 6 okay tier. Now, Monster Hunter Freedom. So I got to experience Kokoto Village, which is one of my favorite villages of all time. I mean, how can it not be? Look, you wake up in the village. It's all cozy. You're in the wilderness. You're in the forest. My favorite part of Kokoto Village by far is walking to the back of the house and finding the stone sword, the sword in the stone, not being able to pull it out, and there's a mystery to it. And then finally, when you beat the game, you can pull it out. It's the hero sword. It's not that great of a weapon, I'm gonna be honest, especially in the later games. It's just novelty, but I love it very much. It's very nostalgic to me. Kokoto Village is very nostalgic to me, but I'm not a fool, and I recognize that Monster Hunter Freedom lacked a lot of things. Greatsword didn't even have a charge. Like, over half the weapons we have today weren't even in there. You know, the roster was very limited. A lot of iconic things came from that game, like the Hell Hunters, Rathalos, Raytheon, Diablos, Monoblos. You had Fatalis as the final boss. Everyone loves Fatalis nowadays, but he was a menace back then too, for different reasons, but he was still a menace. Freedom is a good game, but if you want to experience old gen Monster Hunter, I wouldn't say to go there. Now, the next game I played cannot be denied, and I might get some flack for this, but Freedom 2 is going in solid tier. I've thought about it, and I'm like, no, you know what? It's so hard. I want to give it... Freedom 2 is very special for me. It's bordering on a 7 and an 8. Is it good enough to be great? I do think so. I do think so, and I'll tell you why. Freedom 2, although Freedom was my first Monster Hunter game, I really feel like I was becoming sentient around the time that Monster Hunter Freedom 2 came out. And that game was awesome, because basically it was a sequel, a portable version of DOS, except it took away all the bullshit. So the seasons that I was talking about earlier, the whole season system, Jumbo Village 2 sadly got taken away, and Poke Village got put in. And let me tell you something, if you're a Monster Hunter fan, you know that Poke Village is like the greatest. It's everyone's favorite village. It has one of the best themes of all time. Tigrex is one of the best poster monsters of all time. The way the game opens, with your hunter just walking in the mountains, Tigrex ambushes you, your hunter stands on business, and then he just knocks your ass off a cliff and you wake up in Poke. It's the best ever. It's so nostalgic, and even as an intro, I think it's one of the best intros Monster Hunter's ever had. Not only that, but it was such an actual upgrade from DOS. As for Freedom, it just felt like a portable version of 1. Freedom 2, I feel, was an upgrade in a lot of ways. They added a lot of the good stuff. They added weapons. Dual blades were in this game. That charge was on the greatsword at the time. I think that got introduced in DOS, but for me, it was the first time feeling a greatsword being able to be charged. There were 4 more weapons that were in the previous game, which is huge. You had Poogie, you had the mining area, you had the town, you had a whole new class of monsters in Tigrex, you had a Cantor, which was great. It was a good package for a game. I feel like it gets beat out, and it definitely does with our next game, Freedom Unite. Now, Freedom Unite outdoes it in every possible way. Freedom Unite is peak. And if you've played old gen Monster Hunter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Freedom Unite is the pinnacle of what we veterans know and love. Easily the most content filled Monster Hunter out of all those games. It has the best monsters, that's the best maps, the best music. It has everything that was in the past games, but finally optimized. This is before the big console revolution of Monster Hunter, before it got onto Wii and started getting big and pretty. Freedom Unite had everything. It had Narga Kuga. It brought over the Great Forest from Frontier. It brought over 2 Frontier monsters. This was huge at the time. Hypnocratus and Lavasiath. Now, we don't love Lavasiath nowadays, which we shouldn't. He's kind of a piece of shit. Hypnocratus is cool. I vouch for his comeback. But the truth is that Freedom Unite had so much. All the subspecies, all the maps from previous games. If you want to play an old gen game and really experience it as we veterans know it, play Freedom Unite. I cannot vouch for it enough. Objectively, it might be like a 7, but Monster Hunter people know Freedom Unite is the GOAT. Now, make some way for this pick right here. Don't give me too much flack, but I'm putting Try at an 8. Not a 9, an 8, but it's still great because I was still a kid when this came out, so I have a lot of emotional attachment to it. I have a lot of emotional attachment up to about 4. Then the emotional like bias starts to wear off a little bit. So maybe that's at play here. Base Try is a very short game. It has the smallest monster roster of like any Monster Hunter game, I swear to God. It's got Diablos, Rathian, Rathalos, the new monsters like Baroth, the Brute Wyverns, Devil Joe, Cortopeko, Genmaron, who am I forget? Elatrion, Gobul. Shout out to Gobul. If Gobul's not in Wilds hiding, I'm gonna be very pissed. Gobul needs to be in Wilds, but I love Gobul a lot. Royal Ludroth, Lagia Cruz, how could I forget? The poster boy. Hey, if he's in Wilds, I'm fucking jumping out a window. It's over. It's games. But regardless, it had a very small roster. I could name the roster in like 10 seconds. Besides that, this game had such an essence to it. Moga Village, bro. Moga Village might be top 2 villages ever. I think Poke's like top 3. This is top 2. You cannot take Moga out of that scene. It had a night theme, it had a day theme. It felt so good to walk around in. Like the characters felt real. They're welcoming you. There was activities going on. When you hear and think about Moga Village, you cannot imagine it without the voice of that fishmongeress yelling shit at you. Without even starting a quest. I think this is the first time in the series, if I'm not mistaken, you could walk out to the deserted island from Moga Village, which is just cool. It's the expedition style, which we're all used to nowadays. Very cool. Obviously, yeah, I mean, it had underwater combat. That's the main thing. Underwater combat in Try was controversial, right? Just to say the least, it was controversial. But truth be told, I enjoyed it very much. I didn't find many problems with it. I thought it elevated the gameplay a lot in that, oh wow, he's jumping in the water. Because before you saw Plesios jump in that bitch and I couldn't follow his bitch ass. I just had to sit there and watch him spray water at me. But now it's like, oh, I could jump in there. No, you're locked in here with me now. Although it really didn't feel that way because Lagia Cruz was still whooping my ass and shit. But it was in a different level. I was like, this is awesome. And then I gotta stop there because all of the praises I have for Try carry over to 3 Ultimate, which is peak of the peak. Now, I mean this in all honesty, okay? In all honesty, Freedom Unite is maybe like an 8 to most people, truthfully. No matter who you are, I'm pretty sure 3 Ultimate's a 10. Maybe a 9, but it's a 10 for me because it took all the great stuff I was talking about in Try. It took the water mechanics. It took the new Switch Axe, by the way. It added a Switch Axe, which is one of my favorite weapons ever. So cool. The first like switch weapon that they added that had mechanics to it. It was really sick. And 3 Ultimate just added on to that in the best way possible because technically they skipped a game in between. Portable 3rd came out in between Try and 3 Ultimate. So 3 Ultimate brought over a whole game's worth of content almost into a new game. They left out Yukumo Village, they left out Omatsu, but literally besides that, it was all there. You had Zenogre, you had the Fang Beasts, you had the Misty Peaks, you had everything that made Portable 3rd good and just added it to an already great game. So now you have Peak. I mean, there's not much math to it. And then it added another Black Dragon. Dire Morales is one of the best bosses ever. So cool, so huge. If you've played the game, you know how cool that boss is. Brachydios is a fire monster. And let me tell you something about Brachydios really quick. Brachydios was such an enigma because its weapons were the only weapons at the time that had a unique status effect that only they had. If you didn't know this, I'm pretty sure it's not that deep into the iceberg at this point, but if you didn't know, Brachydios weapons were the only weapon to have slime attribute at the time. And what slime was back then is what blast is now, except blast didn't exist. So if you wanted that, you literally only had to fight Brachydios, take his weapons, and now you just won the game. It was easy mode. And it was so unique because there hasn't really been anything game breaking like that in Monster Hunter up to that point. So it was a big deal. And also he's like Barney, he's green, he's cool. 3 Ultimate is a great package. If you want to, sad, I don't think you can play it anymore because it's on the Wii U, and who the fuck has a Wii U anymore, you know? I would highly recommend it. Port Tanzia is the best gathering hub of all time, no debate. Get in there with your friends. It's the best. Now, I said we skipped 4, which we did, so we're gonna go straight to another peak. I'm sorry, I'm a Monster Hunter diehard. I've been with this series since I was 6 years old. I've been playing for 15 years. I don't care how many of these games I put at peak, they deserve it. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is a 10 out of 10 game. no matter what way you put it, because this is the first Monster Hunter to actually have a competent story, a really competent story. There's not really any character motivations. The simple fact is that you have character archetypes within your group that you can latch onto very easily. Not that they have any arcs or anything like that, but they're easy to latch onto. You travel the world with them. It's not like usual Monster Hunter game. You take your smithy, your quest giver, the Little Miss Forge, the man, Guildmarm, the captain, he's sick. I love the captain so much. You take all of them and go on a worldwide adventure, visiting different villages. You start in Valhabar, then you go to the, I forgot what it's called, but it's the mining village, you know, the forge village. And then you go to Cathar, and then you go to Dundorma to finish the game. It is so cool as a Monster Hunter fan to be able to visit all these places, and then to go back to Dundorma at the end, which is a throwback. It's like, wow. All the while, Gormagal is following your ass. You fight him multiple times because he's chasing you. He literally, you fight him in the ancestral step first, and then he fucking jumps on your ship, and you fight him on your ship. Like, this is crazy. Like, he's following me. Like, we got beef. And then at the end of it, he sheds his skin, and then you fight him in Heaven's Mount. Oh my gosh, that fight is sick. Shagaru Magala for the first time. Everyone loves Gore, right? But there's a reason they love him. It's because they murdered how he was done in this game. They killed it. He's so sick. And 4, more importantly than anything else, the movement that you know and love today in Monster Hunter World, all you world babies, the way that Monster Hunter feels nowadays is because of Monster Hunter 4. They took away the swimming. They said, we don't need that. And they overhauled the movement to where now you don't have to fucking crawl your way up a vine like you're out of stamina. Because back in the day, no joking, it was crazy. It was, I don't want to say it's bad, but it was definitely character building. And then jumping up ledges, just little ledges, was also not so good back in the day. Your character would do a little jump. He would like jump 5, his hands would just go above the ledge, and then he'd fall back down and grab it. It was so funny. In 4, they said, fuck all that. Fuck all that noise. We're gonna make it so that it's seamless. When you jump off a ledge, your character just hops off and hits the floor running. Like no matter what. Even if you jump from like fucking 50 feet, you're gonna hit the floor running. When you're climbing up a vine, you climb up that bitch fast, like something's chasing you. And that's kind of what I love about 4 is that in the opening cinematic, you see the hunter running away from a Tigrex. And it's like, oh, you know, how often are the cinematics really emblematic of what the game is like? And up to that point, I feel like this is a true like representation of, okay, this is how this game plays. You can run and you could weave and you could jump off shit and you could jump over shit fast. Like, it was the most, in my opinion, the most innovative thing they've done in the series. I'm being so serious about that. And I got to give it credit for that. And that's just base 4, right? That's just base 4. And then obviously at the end of the game, you fight Delamador, which is fucking, Delamador is so sick. And then at the end of the game, right, it's over. But then you get 4 Ultimate, which that's all we know over here in America because we never played 4. It was Japanese only. So then you get this story about Seregios and the Apex variants, and they're big and scary. And they are scary. They're very big. And it's just kind of like the Ultimate package you expect, where you get subspecies, a new flagship. But the story for Ultimate was crazy because Dundorma wasn't in the base game, if I'm not mistaken. It was only in Ultimate. You come back to Dundorma, link with everyone knows excitable A-lister from World, A-list hunter. You have Julius, who's the leader. He's got the white hair. He's sick as fuck. You have Fabius, who's gonna be in Wilds. He's the lance user. And then you have the chick, the gunner. I don't remember her name, but she's pretty cool. They're beefing with a Kushala, a rusted Kushala. Dude, it's really not so, like, it's an okay story, but the way that they frame this story is so sick. Like, this rusted Kushala is like the arch nemesis of Julius. Like, he's been following him his whole life, and they've been beefing like for years, and they finally meet again, and you have to help them. And it's funny because it's like, huh, we're fighting a rusted Kushala in the final battle. That's a bit weird, and it is weird, but they make it seem so epic. And then obviously at the end you fight Gogmazios. I mean, fuck, if y'all haven't played 4 Ultimate, Gogmazios is like everyone's favorite final monster, and it's not even up to debate. It's fucking huge, but it moves like it's small, and it's so dangerous. It starts flying halfway through the fight, and that is the scariest thing ever because it's so big, and then it starts flying, and it's like, what the fuck are we fighting right now? It's cinema. You would have to be there to see it. You can tell I love 4 Ultimate, and it's at peak for a reason. All right, now we have Generations, which I didn't play. Generations Ultimate is next. And I'm gonna put Generations Ultimate at the bottom of Peak because it is peak, man. I mean, you can't deny Generations Ultimate. It has the most content out of any monster game by far. Because what they did was they literally told the B team while they're making World, they said, hey, take everything that we did for the past 15 years and just put it into one game. Everything. Like all the villages, all the areas, every single monster, every subspecies, and add more. Add deviants, add 4 new flagships, add an expansion that adds even more flagships, more final bosses, new areas. Like they overhauled the whole series in a way. And then they also added Hunter Arts, which are, if you've played Generations, I'm pretty sure most people have played Generations at this point. It's on the Switch, so you could play it very easily. It's the skills where you can, you know, press a button and you'll just do some crazy shit. And it's actually kind of a shock, especially for like old Monster Hunter fans, because we never got stuff like that before. We just got a weapon and that's all you get. You get the moveset and that's it. With Generations, now you have Hunter Arts, so you can optimize and change certain like skills. It's more action gamey, and it was actually a really good change of pace because we've played all these games before, we fought all these monsters before. How you gonna change it up? Give me a fucking giant greatsword slash where I can eat a hit and then just slash back with the damage that I took. Like that's genius. So, and then they added Valstrax. Everyone loves Valstrax. I love Valstrax. Altal Ka. They added everything that's cool and kind of crazy, like Nakarkos. You know, they added all the variants, like Bloodbath Diablos. A lot of people like Bloodbath Diablos. It's pretty cool. I cannot lie to you, man. So, based on the sake of content and the amount that they fucking put into this game, you got to give it its peak. It's a good time. Pop in. You'll have content for fucking like a year straight. Even if you like try to rush it, you will have content for a long time. And now, I might get some flack for this. Please don't judge me too harshly. I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm sorry. I'm gonna give World a 7. What do you think about that? Let me know right now what you think about that pick. I know it's crazy. I actually probably should put it at great, but just for the sake of filling out this tier list, I'm gonna put it at 7. But how could World be worse than Freedom 2 and Try? It's not, but you know what? Fine. I'll put it at 7. I'll put it at great. Fine. It's going to great tier. So, okay, World is, I mean, everyone's first Monster Hunter game. There were like millions of people around the world playing World. Or so many people were playing World. It's crazy. It's Capcom's best-selling game of all time for a reason. It was an absolute overhaul, like generational leap in graphics, in everything that they were trying to accomplish with old Monster Hunter. They said, let's pump a bunch of money into all that, and let's just release it on all the next-gen consoles, and it's gonna be the shit. And it was the shit. World had everything in it. It was magical, man. I remember playing the beta for the first time for World, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is different. This is not what old hunters are used to at all. So I gotta give y'all World babies some news, okay? Y'all are blessed. Y'all are blessed right now to have been around when World was out and that was your first game. Y'all were blessed because we were raised in a different time. We were playing different shit. We got gifted this new thing and we're like, this is awesome. But y'all just played that and y'all's minds was blown, but that's the standard, you know? For me, World basically was revolutionary for a lot of people, and myself included. I'm gonna give it its flowers. The reason it's not peak is because Iceborne is peak. Now, Iceborne completed World. Iceborne was the full package, and that shows. You know, you play World and you beat it, and it's like, oh, it's over. Endgame, it's okay. It's okay, endgame. Iceborne integrated a real endgame with the guiding lands. Introduced a great flagship with Velkhana. Nergigante was great, but Velkhana was fucking perfect. You know, the new area was awesome. It's the biggest area in the game. They brought back all the flagships. For people who got into this series with World, this was their first time seeing flagships like Nargacuga, Brachydios, Glavenus, Zenogre. Everyone loves Zenogre. Especially a lot of new people because of Iceborne. And the way they introduced him. They introduced him in the end game. I mean, they stood on business with Iceborne for sure. And you could tell the love that was put into it. The new clutch cost system was cool. Not my favorite, but it's actually kind of fun. I can't lie. The subspecies were all very cool. And no pun intended, cannot talk about Iceborne without talking about the last 3 bosses. The best siege fight of all time, Safi Jiva. Elatrion. New hunters did not know about Elatrion. Its veterans were like, oh shit, Elatrion's coming. They made it 10 times worse than it used to be. This is one of the hardest fights ever. Then they brought in Fatalis. Fatalis might be top 5 final bosses of all time. Perfect way to wrap up World as a whole. Just the original Black Dragon, the original final boss. Like I said earlier, it was the final boss of Freedom 1. This shit kicked my ass so hard. I've only beat it once. There has not been a time in my life where I wasn't playing Monster Hunter. Yet I only beat Fatalis once. He's so fucking scary and he's so overtuned, it's ridiculous. But I love it. I love it so much. World Iceborne is a perfect experience. That's why it goes at peak 10. Now, let's talk about something a little different. Rise Sunbreak isn't on here, so I want to talk about both. I'm just going to use base Rise as the image. And we're going to talk about base Rise first. And in my opinion, it goes at 7. It goes at a 7. Let me tell you why. Base Rise, we're talking about day 1 Rise. Like if you were to finish the game within 24 hours after it came out, which you could definitely do. I'm not even lying. You could finish this game in like 8 hours. It's like the shortest base game of all time. Dude, it is unfinished. I know they were developing this during COVID. There was content in the base game that they had to release out as content updates after launch. And you could totally tell. The credits roll after Magnamalo. And then what happens after Magnamalo is dead isn't that significant. It's just like a few uninteresting high rank quests. And then you fight Ibushi and Narwa and that's it. Narwa's the final boss of the base game. Like what? Dude, here's how you know. They released All Mother Narwa as a boss in a content update. You can totally tell that's supposed to be the true final boss of Rise. And it would have been perfect. Because Narwa eats the shit out of like Ibushi. They fuck. They do like some shit. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like they're fucking, but they're fucking. She takes his soul and like takes his power. And it's an incredible boss. It's really cool. But it's a content update. So base Rise was really lacking in a lot of ways. The story was really pretty bad, honestly. The Rampage, I'm gonna be honest, it was fun for like 10 times, you know? They force you to do it around 10 times. After that, it just kind of overstays its welcome. I'm not really a fan of it too much. Magnamalo, I'm telling you this right now. Magnamalo got the worst flagship treatment of all time. They tried, the fact that they tried to implement it in the story in some way was so pathetic. Like they did such a bad job. Its cutscene was all they needed. They should have just left it at its cutscene and that's all they gave us. It's cold as fuck. I love Magnamalo so much, yet they made that happen to it. It just dies and that's it. No more. Bye bye. It's the last you see of it. No influence. But you cannot talk about base Rise without talking about the wire bug, which is the big selling point of the game. It's the new mechanic, along with Palamutes, which are the new mounts. Wire bug is one of my favorite things Monster Hunter's ever done. It's basically a gauge system, and you've seen it if you've played Rise. You have these 3 little bugs, and you can do whatever. You can grapple straight. You could run on walls. Rise is crazy for this. You could run on anything you see. It's actually kind of crazy. The way you traverse in Rise is so freeform. It's like go anywhere, run up anything you want. It's kind of awesome. I don't feel like there's too much detriment though. I feel like they balance it out quite well with the maps and it's very fun. So Rise is fun, but the problem is that it's a very short game and there's not much content. Now, Rise Sunbreak. Okay. I'm going to use this image for Sunbreak. Sunbreak completed Rise in a way that Iceborne did not complete World. Iceborne did complete World, but World could have been left on its own and like, okay, it's a game. Rise was like, are you serious? Like this is over? Like, come on. Sunbreak came out, brought 2 maps, 2 ginormous maps, the Citadel, the jungle for Monster Hunter 2, bro. You know how special that is for people like me who played Monster Hunter Freedom 2? The fucking jungle was back. They brought back Gore Magala. They brought back Espinos. Dude, Espinos hasn't even been in the main series. He's a frontier monster. They tried it before. They added Hypnocatrix and Lavasia, which didn't go so well because those are some shitty monsters in my opinion. Espinos was awesome. I was like, are you serious? It was a love letter to old fans. The story of Sunbreak was so good. It puts others to shame. It puts Iceborne to shame. It puts fucking World to shame. It puts even 4 to shame in my opinion. It really does. The characters are a little more than archetypes. They actually have some essence. Not all of them, but some of them do. The main ones. Mostly Fiorine, honestly. Just Fiorine. The fact that the flagship has so much influence in the story is so sick. Malzeno is pound for pound #1 my favorite flagship of all time. This dude is a vampire lord. He takes the life essence from other monsters. He rules over the Citadel and he has his little minions, a werewolf and a Frankenstein monster, which are Garangolm and Luna Garen, patrolling it and controlling the rest of it. Like, dude, this is cinema. The archetype they used for the flagships were so sick. And then the content updates for Sunbreak 2 were like the best content updates ever. We got Amatsu, we got Velkhana back. You know, we got a lot of variants, which is surprising. Like, we got variants and content updates, but there were some great variants. Like Violet Mizutsune is my favorite rare species of all time. So cool. And my favorite part of Sunbreak, I'm not even lying to you, not Elgato Village, which is great, not all the throwbacks, not the jungle, not Malzeno. It's Geismagorm. Dude, they brought fucking... So here's what's cool about Sunbreak. For me, it has my favorite flagship of all time, and it has my favorite Monster Hunter final boss of all time. Geismagorm is so fucking sick. You cannot look at that thing and tell me that's not sick. Dude, you knock it through the floor like 2 times, and then at the bottom it fucking charges up with evil fire, demon fire. It's a demon. It sticks its arm in the ground and then does the rocket launch, and it's so big. Like, how is it moving that fast? It's absurd. And then it turns the whole arena into like a hellfire. It's, bro, if y'all haven't played Rise Sunbreak, go play it right now. It's fucking peak. It's my favorite Monster Hunter game. It really is. I think it's tied with 4 Ultimate. But the fact of the matter is, most of Monster Hunter is really good, and it has a few duds, but for the most part, Monster Hunters have been a fantastic series. And listen, Wilds drops in fucking 2 days. From the day this is recorded, Wilds drops in 2 days. I'm picking up my physical copy, and I hope to see every single one of you there with me, because we're riding in, we're killing everything out there. We're going to discover all the nature, and we're going to say, hey, well, you know what? I want to murder you and take it and make you in a pair of pants. I want to make you in a pair of my new shoes. I'm going to wear you on my feet, on my hands, on my head. You will become my gear. Everything I see out there is becoming gear. I'm so excited. I hope to see y'all out there. Also, I'm going to be streaming Wilds every day, and I mean that, every day on launch. So from Friday the 28th all the way up until we beat it, I'm going to be streaming it every day. So I hope to see y'all there with me. I hope I see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.